My name is Ryan, and I've always been a creature of routine. I worked at a quiet marketing agency, my days filled with spreadsheets, client emails, and coffee breaks that felt longer than they should. On the surface, I was just another guy living an ordinary life. But beneath the monotony, there was a part of me that had always hungered for something different, a side of myself I rarely allowed to surface. I had experimented with cross-dressing in private over the years, starting with small things, a borrowed shirt here, a little makeup there. The feeling of slipping into something soft, something feminine, was intoxicating. It was a secret world where I could explore the parts of me that everyday life didn't allow. Emma, my girlfriend, was the first person who knew about this hidden side of me. She was compassionate, bold, and effortlessly charming. We had been together for 3 years, and our relationship had always had a playful, adventurous energy. She teased me, encouraged me, and sometimes nudged me toward daring experiences, but nothing had prepared me for the day her mom, Mrs. Daniels, decided to take an interest in me. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon when it all began. I had gone over to Emma's place to spend the day with her, expecting our usual routine of lounging on the couch, binge-watching shows, and ordering takeout. But the moment I stepped inside, I was greeted by an unusual sight. Mrs. Daniels bustling about with a stack of magazines, a carefully arranged display of makeup, and a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Ryan, dear, I've been meaning to talk to you," she said, her voice warm, yet carrying an underlying curiosity. I smiled politely, not quite sure what she meant. Emma clapped her hands excitedly. "Mom's going to give you a makeover today," she announced, beaming. I froze. A makeover?
Me?
My pulse spiked, and a mixture of excitement and panic surged through me. I wasn't a stranger to cross-dressing in private, but the thought of Mrs. Daniels, Emma's mother, someone whose approval mattered to both of us, taking charge of my appearance was nerve-wracking. Mrs. Daniels laughed softly at my hesitation. "Oh, don't be shy.
I'm not here to judge, Ryan.
I just want to see you explore a side of yourself. Think of it as a little experiment. You might enjoy it." I swallowed hard, feeling my stomach twist with nervous anticipation. Something about her tone made it impossible to refuse. Emma, sensing my hesitation, nudged me with a grin. "Come on, it'll be fun. Trust me." We moved to the living room, where Mrs. Daniels had laid out an array of dresses, skirts, makeup, and accessories. The colors were vibrant, soft pastels that shimmered in the sunlight streaming through the windows. She gestured toward a silky pink dress. "Let's start with this. I think it will suit you perfectly." My hands shook slightly as I took it from her. The texture was soft, almost electric against my skin. As I changed into the dress, I felt a familiar thrill of transformation. The mirror reflected a version of me that I rarely allowed the world to see, delicate, poised, and undeniably feminine. Mrs. Daniels circled me, adjusting the straps and smoothing the fabric against my shoulders. "You have a natural elegance," she remarked, her eyes warm. I blushed, feeling both embarrassed and exhilarated. The sensation of being guided, curated, and celebrated by someone I respected was addictive. Next came the makeup. I had applied makeup in private before, but this was different. Mrs. Daniels' hands were skilled and confident, brushing foundation, eyeshadow, and blush across my face with precision. She whispered tips and encouragements, guiding me through each step. The reflection in the mirror transformed again. My eyes looked wider, my lips fuller, my face more expressive. Each stroke heightened my sense of vulnerability and excitement. Emma watched eagerly from the couch, her smile radiant. "Wow, Ryan, you're gorgeous," she exclaimed. Her words made my heart race. I realized then that this makeover wasn't just about appearance. It was about identity, validation, and acceptance. For the first time, I felt fully seen, fully celebrated, and wholly feminine in a way that went beyond mere costume. By the time Mrs. Daniels added the finishing touches, a delicate necklace, subtle curls in my hair, and a pair of soft heels, I barely recognized myself. I stood straighter, moved more gracefully, and felt a surge of confidence mingled with vulnerability. I was no longer just Ryan, the ordinary boyfriend. I was someone new, someone daring, someone beautiful. That evening, as Emma took my hand and led me to the living room for a final look, Mrs. Daniels smiled knowingly. "You're like a daughter to me now, Ryan. Treat this gift well." The words sent a shiver down my spine. Something had shifted. What began as a simple makeover had unlocked a new dynamic between us, one that blurred the lines between identity, admiration, and desire. As I left Emma's house later that night, my reflection in the car mirror caught my eye. The transformation lingered in subtle ways. The posture, the expression, the quiet confidence. I knew one thing for certain. My life was about to change. Mrs. Daniels had opened a door, and stepping through it meant exploring a part of myself I could no longer hide or deny. The next morning, sunlight poured into Ryan's bedroom, warming the soft pink and cream tones of the dress he had left on the hanger. Every time he glanced at it, a shiver ran through him, a mix of anticipation, excitement, and a creeping anxiety. He had never felt so exposed yet so alive. The previous day's makeover had unlocked something inside him, a side he had only explored in private. Now, the thought of stepping further into this feminine persona both thrilled and terrified him. He took a deep breath, brushing his fingers lightly over the satin. The dress felt like a promise, soft and alluring. His mind wandered back to Mrs. Daniels' gentle but firm guidance, her hands adjusting the fabric, curling his hair, applying makeup with a precision that made him feel transformed in every sense of the word. The memory made his pulse quicken. He had felt like a new person, someone who could be seen, admired, and celebrated. And that feeling was addictive. Later, Ryan received a text from Emma. "Mom wants to see you again. She has something special planned. Don't be late, 2 hearts." His stomach twisted with nervous excitement. He didn't know what something special could mean, but the thrill of stepping into the unknown made his heart pound. He dressed carefully, choosing a soft pastel blouse and a skirt that swayed lightly as he moved. His hands shook as he applied a touch of makeup, trying to emulate the precision Mrs. Daniels had taught him. Every brushstroke, every adjustment, was a step deeper into this feminine identity. When he arrived, Mrs. Daniels greeted him with her usual warmth, but there was a sparkle in her eyes, a mischievous curiosity that set Ryan's nerves on edge. "Good morning, darling. Today, we're going to do something fun," she said, motioning him toward a mirror surrounded by lights and a tray of cosmetics. "I want to see you fully embrace this side of yourself." Ryan's heart raced as she guided him through the transformation again. The blush went on perfectly this time. Eyeliner lined his eyes with skill he had never managed alone, and mascara highlighted his lashes in a way that made his reflection mesmerizing. He could barely recognize the person staring back, eyes wide, lips soft and expressive, hair curling elegantly around his shoulders. With each stroke and adjustment, the thrill of vulnerability and exposure mingled with a growing confidence. Mrs. Daniels' hands were gentle but firm, ensuring everything was perfect. "You have such potential," she whispered. "The way you carry yourself, the way you react to the smallest touches, there's a grace in you, Ryan. I can see it, and so can Emma." The words made his cheeks flush, both from embarrassment and exhilaration. The recognition of his feminine persona from someone other than Emma validated a part of him he had always hidden, and it was intoxicating. As Ryan adjusted the skirt and smoothed the fabric, a small accident nearly betrayed him. A misstep on the heels caused a tiny stumble. Mrs. Daniels caught him instantly, steadying him with a reassuring hand. "Careful, darling," she murmured. That single touch sent a shiver through him. The close guidance, the attention, and the thrill of potential exposure heightened every sensation, making each moment electric with tension and desire. Emma observed from the sofa, her eyes sparkling with approval. "You look incredible, Ryan. I can't believe how much you've grown into this." Her words, simple yet powerful, amplified his internal conflict. He wanted to stay like this forever, to continue exploring this version of himself. But a small voice inside reminded him of the stakes, the vulnerability, the possibility of being discovered, and the societal expectations he was secretly defying. The afternoon progressed with increasingly detailed guidance. Mrs. Daniels taught him how to walk gracefully in heels, how to adjust his posture for elegance, and how to use subtle gestures to amplify his femininity. Ryan practiced, wobbling at first, then gradually finding a rhythm. Each step brought a thrill and a fear. The thrill of embodying this persona, the fear of someone seeing him and shattering the delicate illusion he was creating. At one point, Mrs. Daniels handed him a delicate hair accessory. "This will complete the look, darling. It's all about the small touches," she said. Ryan pinned it carefully, feeling the fabric and jewels press against his hair. He noticed the reflection in the mirror once again, the duality of Ryan and his feminine persona staring back at him. The line between ordinary and transformed was blurring, and he wasn't sure if he wanted it to remain distinct. Later, Emma suggested a small family dinner to test the persona. Ryan's heart leapt. The thought of stepping into a social setting fully dressed and made up, with Emma's mom observing closely, was both terrifying and thrilling. Every step toward the dining room felt like walking a tightrope. He could hear the soft hum of conversation and the clink of dishes as Mrs. Daniels guided him, praising his posture, his gestures, his every move. During the dinner, Ryan faced small moments of suspense, a sudden comment from a relative, a glance from Emma, the fleeting worry that someone would notice a flaw in his persona. Each moment heightened his emotional and physical awareness, the sway of his skirt, the weight of his heels, the subtle brush of his hair. He felt both empowered and vulnerable, fully immersed in the experience, yet acutely aware of how precarious it all was. By the end of the evening, Ryan was exhausted but exhilarated. Alone later in his room, he traced the contours of his reflection in the mirror. The transformation had gone beyond mere appearance. It had touched something deep within him. He realized he craved more, the attention, the guidance, the thrill of exploring this identity. And yet, the tension of secrecy and the fear of exposure lingered, making every heartbeat a reminder of the precariousness of his new reality. Mrs. Daniels had unlocked a door Ryan hadn't realized was waiting to be opened. Each moment with her guidance deepened the connection, the thrill and the suspense. The line between curiosity and necessity, vulnerability and empowerment, excitement and fear had blurred completely. And as he lay awake that night, he knew this journey had only just begun. The weekend arrived, and Emma had invited a few close friends over for a small gathering. Ryan's heart raced as he dressed in the outfit Mrs. Daniels had selected, a soft pastel dress with delicate lace accents, paired with subtle jewelry and heels that made him sway elegantly. Every detail had been carefully curated, every accessory chosen to highlight his feminine side. As he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his hair and brushing the skirt into place, he barely recognized the reflection staring back at him. The drive to Emma's house was a blur of nervous anticipation. He gripped the steering wheel with trembling hands, glancing at his reflection in the rear-view mirror. Each glance reminded him of how different he looked and how vulnerable he would be if someone saw him outside the controlled environment of Mrs. Daniels' guidance. He tried to steady his breathing, reminding himself that Emma and her mom were both supportive and that nothing could go wrong, but the fear of exposure lingered like a shadow. Upon arrival, Mrs. Daniels greeted him warmly. "You look perfect, darling," she said, her smile both reassuring and electrifying. Emma took his hand, leading him to the living room where the friends were already mingling. Ryan felt a mix of exhilaration and panic, the thrill of attention coupled with the constant awareness that one misstep could reveal his secret. The party began, and Ryan immediately felt the challenge of navigating social interactions while maintaining his feminine persona. Each conversation required careful attention, balancing gestures, modulating his voice, and ensuring that his appearance remained flawless. A small slip, a slightly awkward laugh, or a stumble in his heels could draw suspicion. Each glance from the guests made him acutely aware of the precariousness of his position. Then came the first close call. Emma's cousin, whom Ryan hadn't met before, leaned in with curiosity. "Wow, you look different. Really good, though. Who helped you get ready?" Ryan's heart skipped a beat. Mrs. Daniels stepped in smoothly, praising him and subtly deflecting attention. Her intervention kept him safe, but the adrenaline coursing through his body reminded him just how delicate the balance was. The evening progressed, and Ryan began to feel a strange duality, powerful and vulnerable at the same time. The attention he received from Mrs. Daniels, Emma, and even the guests validated the feminine persona he had been cultivating, yet the suspense of being discovered heightened every sensation. He laughed, gestured, and moved with poise, but internally, he was constantly calculating, anticipating, and adjusting. A symbolic moment intensified the tension. While reaching for a glass of punch, Ryan's heel caught on the rug, causing him to stumble slightly. He caught himself just in time, but the moment left him breathless. Mrs. Daniels, noticing the misstep, placed a reassuring hand on his arm. The contact sent a shiver through him, a mix of fear, excitement, and an almost overwhelming awareness of intimacy. The mirror-like reflection of the two selves, Ryan and the transformed persona, loomed in his mind, reminding him that this balancing act was more than just a performance. It was a test of identity, composure, and desire. Midway through the gathering, a surprising twist escalated the stakes. Emma's best friend, someone Ryan hadn't expected to see, arrived early and headed straight toward the living room. Ryan froze, panic rising. Would she recognize him from before? Would she notice the transformation? Each step she took felt amplified, echoing through his mind as he sought a way to maintain composure without drawing attention. Mrs. Daniels, ever observant, guided Ryan with subtle gestures and whispered encouragements. "Stay calm, darling. You're doing wonderfully," she said. Her reassurance was grounding, yet the thrill of close calls and potential exposure heightened Ryan's emotional tension. Every movement, every smile, every gesture was now loaded with suspense. Later, a symbolic prop amplified the emotional stakes. A delicate hairpin, part of the ensemble, slipped from Ryan's curls and fell to the floor. The sudden vulnerability, his feminine persona literally at risk of unraveling, made his heart pound. He bent quickly to retrieve it, aware that every motion was being observed. Mrs. Daniels' approving nod reminded him of the safety and thrill of her presence, yet the fear of external judgment lingered. As the night continued, Ryan's emotional tension mingled with physical exhaustion. He danced, laughed, and engaged in conversations, but the constant awareness of being on display kept him on edge. The thrill of validation, the anxiety of exposure, and the exhilaration of transformation merged into a heady cocktail, leaving him both empowered and vulnerable. Finally, as the gathering drew to a close, a final obstacle presented itself. Emma's father unexpectedly arrived home early, entering the room just as Ryan was adjusting his dress in the kitchen. Ryan froze, heart hammering. The weight of discovery pressed down, every second stretching into eternity. Would he be exposed? Could he maintain composure? The suspense was unbearable. Mrs. Daniels, quick-thinking as ever, stepped in smoothly, introducing Ryan as someone helping with the party preparations and subtly redirecting her husband's attention. Ryan exhaled in relief, feeling the rush of adrenaline mix with an intoxicating sense of triumph. The duality of identity, the ordinary Ryan and the transformed, celebrated persona, had survived yet another close call. As the night ended, Ryan lingered in the living room, reflecting on the journey of the evening. He was exhilarated, exhausted, and deeply aware of the precarious balance he maintained. Mrs. Daniels' guidance had allowed him to explore a side of himself he had long kept hidden, while the suspenseful obstacles tested his courage, composure, and identity. By the time he left, stepping carefully in his heels and adjusting his dress one last time, Ryan knew that his transformation was more than temporary. The thrill, the validation, the excitement of navigating this feminine persona in a real social environment had awakened something inside him. He was no longer just the private Ryan he had once been. He was someone who had tasted a new identity, and he didn't want to stop. Yet the suspense lingered. Every glance, every whisper, every potential discovery remained a shadow over his exhilaration. The journey had reached its climax, but the story was far from over. The thrill of transformation and the fear of exposure intertwined in a way that left Ryan both terrified and eager for what came next. The house had quieted down after the evening's gathering. Guests had departed, the soft hum of music faded, and the warm glow of lamps cast gentle shadows across the room. Ryan sat on the edge of the sofa, still in his pastel dress, his heels resting delicately on the carpet. His reflection in the hallway mirror caught his eye, a delicate, feminine persona he barely recognized as his own. Every movement reminded him of the thrill and vulnerability that had defined the night. Mrs. Daniels approached, her smile soft but knowing. "Ryan, you've done wonderfully tonight. I'm proud of how you handled everything." Her voice carried a warmth that was comforting, yet the intimacy of her attention sent shivers through him. He adjusted his skirt nervously, aware of how different he felt from the ordinary version of himself he wore like a mask in daily life. Emma, sensing the lingering tension and exhilaration, flopped beside him on the sofa. "You were amazing," she whispered, her eyes sparkling. "I've never seen you like this before." Ryan's pulse quickened. The validation from both Emma and her mother left him exhilarated, yet also terrified. How long could he maintain this identity? How far could he go without being discovered? Suddenly, a faint sound echoed from upstairs, a floorboard creaking lightly. Ryan's heart jumped. Was it Emma's father returning unexpectedly? A late guest? Or merely the house settling? Each possibility amplified his tension, reminding him of how fragile the facade was. His mind raced, weighing whether he should retreat, change back, or maintain his persona and risk discovery. Mrs. Daniels, ever observant, placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Relax, darling. Everything is fine." Yet even as she reassured him, Ryan felt the familiar thrill of suspense, the delicate balance between exposure and concealment, excitement and fear. He knew that any small misstep could unravel the careful persona he had cultivated over the weekend. Then, without warning, the hallway door opened slowly. A shadow stretched across the floor, and Ryan froze, breath catching in his throat. Emma called out cheerfully, oblivious to the tension. "Mom, is that you?" The figure paused, stepping closer. Ryan's mind spun. Who could it be? Could this be the end of his secret, the moment his dual identity was revealed? He ducked instinctively behind the sofa, his reflection fragmented in the mirrored surfaces around the room. The sensation of hiding, of being watched, of teetering on the edge of discovery, made every heartbeat feel amplified. The dress swayed lightly as he crouched, the soft fabric brushing against his legs. Every sound, the creak of the door, the footsteps approaching, felt magnified. Mrs. Daniels stepped forward, smiling warmly. "Everything's all right, Ryan," she whispered. Her confidence steadied him, yet the suspense remained unbearable. The duality of his identity, Ryan, and his transformed persona stared at him from every reflective surface. For the first time, he realized he didn't want to hide this part of himself. The thrill, the attention, the intimacy of being seen had awakened something he couldn't ignore. The shadow finally resolved into Emma's father, who stepped into the room with a puzzled look. Ryan's breath caught. Would he recognize him? Would his secret be exposed? The tension reached its peak as the man glanced toward the sofa, pausing just as Ryan adjusted the hem of his dress, frozen in place. Time seemed to slow. Ryan's heartbeat echoed in his ears. Every muscle tensed, every instinct screamed to act. Should he flee, reveal himself, or remain hidden and hope for understanding? The moment stretched, unresolved, leaving the room thick with suspense. Finally, the figure moved past, and Ryan exhaled shakily. Relief mixed with exhilaration and a craving for more validation, more thrill, more exploration of the identity that had so thoroughly consumed him over the weekend. Yet the story wasn't over. The tension lingered, a reminder that his secret life remained precarious, exciting, and utterly intoxicating.